Yeah. So there were. It's not the first time in Exodus, but yeah. So we'll go ahead and take a look, and we'll kind of
Yeah,
compare mental movies when we get through the chapter. So here we are, Exodus chapter
there you go.
33 here from the top in the English Standard Version. The Lord said to Moses, "Depart, go up from here, you and the people whom you have brought up out of the land of Egypt, to the land of which I swore to Abraham, Isaac, and Jacob, saying, to your offspring I will give it. I will send an angel before you, and I will drive out the Canaanites, the Amorites, the Hittites, the Perizzites, the Hivites, and the Jebusites. Go up to a land flowing with milk and honey, but I will not go up among you, lest I consume you on the way, for you are a stiff-necked people." When the people heard this disastrous word, they mourned, and no one put on his ornaments. For the Lord had said to Moses, "Say to the people of Israel, you are a stiff-necked people. If for a single moment I should go up among you, I would consume you. So now take off your ornaments, that I may know what to do with you." Therefore the people of Israel stripped themselves of their ornaments from Mount Horeb onward. Now Moses used to take the tent and pitch it outside the camp, far off from the camp, and he called it the tent of meeting. And everyone who sought the Lord would go out to the tent of meeting, which was outside the camp. Whenever Moses went out to the tent, all the people would rise up, and each would stand at his tent door and watch Moses until he had gone into the tent. When Moses entered the tent, the pillar of cloud would descend and stand at the entrance of the tent, and the Lord would speak with Moses. And when all the people saw the pillar of cloud standing at the entrance of the tent, all the people would rise up and worship, each at his tent door. Thus the Lord used to speak to Moses face to face, as a man speaks to his friend. When Moses turned again into the camp, his assistant Joshua the son of Nun, a young man, would not depart from the tent. Moses said to the Lord, "See, you say to me, bring up this people, but you have not let me know whom you will send with me. Yet you have said, I know you by name, and you also have found favor in my sight. Now therefore, if I have found favor in your sight, please show me now your ways, that I may know you in order to find favor in your sight. Consider, too, that this nation is your people." And he said, "My presence will go with you, and I will give you rest." And he said to him, "If your presence will not go with me, do not bring us up from here. For how shall it be known that I have found favor in your sight, I and your people? Is it not in your going with us, so that we are distinct, I and your people, from every other people on the face of the earth?" And the Lord said to Moses, "This very thing that you've spoken, I will do, for you have found favor in my sight, and I know you by name." Moses said, "Please show me your glory." And he said, "I will make all my goodness pass before you, and will proclaim before you my name, the Lord. And I will be gracious to whom I will be gracious, and I will show mercy on whom I will show mercy. But," he said, "you cannot see my face, for man shall not see me and live." And the Lord said, "Behold, there is a place by me where you shall stand on the rock, and while my glory passes by, I will put you in a cleft of the rock, and I will cover you with my hand until I have passed by. Then I will take away my hand, and you shall see my back, but my face shall not be seen." So I really, really like this chapter just because of all the dialogue that you have back and forth between Moses and God. I mean, that line there, which is just so, it's cool, and it gets picked up in John, I think, where the Lord says, "I haven't called you servants, but friends." Where is that line
Yeah,
there about the friend, right, in verse 11,
yeah,
right? The Lord used to speak to
yeah,
Moses face to
yeah.
face as a man speaks to his friend. You have that sense with this back and forth that they have. Like, they have a rapport, and like, I don't know, like it's almost like they might like have banter or something. Like, it's amazing, I think, the picture of the intimacy that Moses has with God. I mean, and it's really just mind blowing when you think that, this is just Moses just kind of hanging out and chatting with the creator of the universe. I mean, for me, it sort of seems to, well, I mean, it reminds me of both in Genesis, the description of how Adam would just, go on walks with God and chat, right, in the nice breeze. But then also
Yeah.
in the New Testament, the descriptions of the Lord Jesus and the intimacy that he has as between father and son.
Yeah, and the word banter is especially appropriate, I think, in this place and in others. That God's almost like, I'm not going to go with you. I'm just
Yeah.
tired of you people. I'm just so sick of you. I mean, if I went up with you, I'd just probably kill everybody. And
Yeah.
Moses, is just kind of like, yeah, I mean, I know what you mean by that, but you know what? I'll tell you what. If you don't go with me, I'm not doing this. I'm done. I'm out.
Yeah.
And there's
Yeah.
almost like a cheekiness to this that is, but in all things there is just a strong, gracious. I mean, there's a wonderful law gospel tension here, that the law has consequences, and yet the gospel, God forgives and bears with. But to take that for granted, as if we can just assume it, something that Moses never does, and yet he relies so thoroughly that grace will dominate over the judgment that we deserve, that he can be almost cheeky with God.
Yeah,
And
yeah. I like the
it's
way you're kind of
wonderful.
paraphrasing it, because I think that too often, and I think we saw the same thing with some of the negotiations with Pharaoh, that we take, it's like everything that Moses says is like another one of the commandments or something, right? And so I remember
Yeah,
like with
right.
with Pharaoh, how he's like, the ESV has, like something like, very well, you will never again see my face. And then we like read the next chapter and we're like, oh hey, but they're talking. This is like a prophecy that didn't come true. And it's just like, well, no, it's like he wasn't saying, like, this wasn't like supposed to be like some prophecy prediction. He's just saying like, fine, I won't come back here. I mean, and so it's
Yeah.
that kind of like back and forth, like you were saying, like God's like, I'm not going. I'd just kill you all. You guys are just nuts. I think that's kind of closer to the real sense that, Moses knows that he's like saying how he feels, and he can change his mind. I mean, that's, I mean, it's very
Yeah.
anthropomorphic, but I think that's really the presentation here.
Oh yeah, yeah. And I mean, extremely well said. We kind of hang on all this, like, there are different ways that God speaks to his people, and the intimacy and the friendship with Moses. I mean, I think that line that you rightly picked out in verse 11 is just key for getting this whole chapter. This is not God thundering from Mount Sinai, commandments for all time and all places, deadly serious. This is how we talk to our friends,
Yep.
and there are nuances there. There's almost, I think this is where the movie in the head,
Yeah.
tone of voice,
Yeah, definitely.
raising an eyebrow, and I think Jesus does this a lot in the Gospels with his disciples, and they do it too. I mean, one of my favorites is when he's like, "Do you understand everything I've said?" And they go, "Yes."
Yeah.
And I think Jesus just gets a big smile and shakes his head. It's like, okay, let's just go on to the next town. I'm not going to quiz
Yeah.
you.
Yeah,
Oh,
no. Yeah, I was just looking at one of those moments like yesterday. It was like, I think it was in Mark, and he's like, guys, if you don't understand this parable, how are you supposed to understand any of them? Yeah, I mean, I mean, he just kind of like lays it on him sometimes. Like, this isn't going to work, guys. You got to, yeah. I mean, there's a lot of that kind of rapport, though, right? I mean, and it's when you read it, kind of like without any contractions, and in that kind of like, machine voice. It sounds like he's just being really
yeah,
mean to them all the time.
just harsh.
Yeah,
Yeah,
right. Why is he so mean? Like he doesn't like, people
right.
for not being smart. But that's not what's going on. It's just that's the kind of
No,
intimacy they have.
yeah, he's tweaking them like we tweak our friends, when we're playing a game of horse or something. I was a great shot, when you miss everything. And,
Yeah, yeah,
I don't even know if you guys are fit to be apostles. And yet there's no real, he doesn't really mean that. I mean, that's where your word banter is good. He's tweaking them a little bit, but they know that he has chosen them and he will not go back on that. But they shouldn't get a swelled head about that. They shouldn't become arrogant, but realize this is all graciousness. And Moses has that same back and forth. I think this is really an important discussion, because I think sometimes we take everything so seriously. We miss the banter, we miss the love, the affection that God has for us in spite of ourselves, that we can miss the warmth,
Yeah.
and the genuine, like a father with his child. Hey, when we discipline our children, sometimes we have to be harsh, but there's no question but that we love them, that we care for them, that we're not going to abandon them.
Right. Yeah.
And that's where I think this chapter, I'm not going to go with you people anymore. Of course he's going to go with them. He
Yeah.
made a promise.
Yeah.
But
That doesn't mean that he feels like it right now. Not right after what just happened.
He's serious. Right at this moment, I would probably kill you if I came and hung out with you. But you, I'll chat. I mean, it's almost that God bent a little bit with Moses.
Yeah. Yeah, I know. Yeah.
And it's just like you say, the intimacy, the friendship. And you're right, Jesus, when he tells the apostles in John 15, no longer I call you servants, I call you friends.
Right.
And this is how we treat our friends. I mean, sometimes we say things to our friends that if we said them to just an acquaintance, they would be just offended, and furious with us.
Right.
And yet, you can say things to your friends where you're pointing out a flaw, you're half serious, it is a flaw, but your love for them, you both know you're going to stick with them anyway.
Yeah, I think that is, as you were saying, it's helpful for me too, just to have that conversation and kind of think through that and kind of think about tone of voice and imagining it. And I remember just really quick, and then we should move on to some of these other points here. I think it was it was a while ago, but there was a movie that one of these kind of like Bible adaptations that came out. It was I want to say it was like early 2000s or something. It was called The Gospel of John, and it was let me see here. It was like I think the text of it was pretty much just like the NIV, just straight. Yeah, I think it was like 2003 here, and I think it was just like the NIV or something like that, just like pretty much like straight read out of it. But there's a couple of moments where they kind of, I'm not even sure they have any words, but they show these interactions between the Lord and the disciples. And I'm pretty sure at one moment he plays a joke or like messes with one of the disciples or something like that. And then like comes over and like gives him a big noogie or something like that. And I thought that was one of the most brilliant moments of the thing, the way it's portrayed. And anyway, that was just really cool. But
yeah, no, and I think it's important when we preach on this. It's a tough thing if you can make the gospel sound so harsh and legalistic and not gospel at all if you don't somehow manage in your telling of the story to catch some of those nuances, some of that warmth and affection, some of the humor, some of the banter. But yeah. All right, but we got serious stuff in here.
That's
too,
right. We got to be a little serious today, at least.
Yeah.
So we look here at the beginning of the chapter. God speaks again to Moses, and it's the instructions, to head out, which, I was kind of hinting at the beginning. In some ways, feels kind of weird because, well, they're not actually going to like go right now. In chapter 34, it's like, oh yeah, those tablets were smashed to pieces. So there's going to be that. And then I think at the end of the chapter in 34, it's going to say that, Moses has to spend another 40 days and 40 nights up there. It's over in verse 28. So it's going to be a little while still. But I think it's important here in this first section here in the first three verses. Really kind of the first like 6 verses here, that it's an affirmation that they still get to go on this trip. And I was kind of putting it that way because it's sort of like when you're not on the best of terms with certain family members, and then you go and get in the car for like 12 hours, it's like, I mean, honestly, like there's forgiveness that they're showing you just by the fact that they're sitting in the same vehicle still.
Right. And there is one, the first verse is actually very important for very contentious in the modern world, that I'm taking you to the land because I made a promise to Abraham, Isaac, and Jacob.
Yeah.
And I said, to your offspring I will give it. And in Galatians 3:15 and 16, Paul tells us, under divine inspiration, that is offspring singular,
Mm-hmm.
which means Christ. That the land of Israel is not given to all the Israelites. It belongs to Abraham, Isaac, Jacob, and Jesus. And
Yeah.
that, in our modern world, obviously, we could spend a whole hour just talking about the implications of that realization.
Oh, yeah.
Because most modern Christians take this as a plural, that God gave the land to all the people,
Yeah.
but he gave it to Abraham and to Christ.
Yeah, I think
So,
that's well said. We've talked in a number of places. I mean, even in the last couple of chapters, really about this. Yes, like Israel is the church. That is the clear language of Paul in the scripture you just quoted and elsewhere.
yeah.
There is no, okay, that was Israel, and now this is like some new thing over here. No, it's all part of the same family of faith. The choosing of Abraham, and I think that point then uh, it allows actually a little bit of flexibility, because I think in the short run you can understand this literally as well, yes, it's going to be the offspring of the people of Israel, which is significant because in just the prior chapter, God offered Moses, hey, I'll destroy them, I'll give you new kids, and I will give the promised land to your offspring, Moses. So I think that in this moment, there's kind of this literal level where this is pretty gracious in saying, okay, I will give it to their offspring, these people over here still, and kind of that little bit of this emphasis there. But yeah, I think that part of I agree with you. You were saying kind of earlier, kind of the weird. There's a little bit of this weirdness of he's going to send an angel before them when they're on this trip,
Yeah.
and they're going to go, but he's not going to go up among them. So it's sort of like, okay, I'm
I'm not going.
affirming you guys get to go, and we're going to go, but just you're going to. I mean, yeah, right.
Yeah, I'm doing this because I made a promise and I keep my promises.
Yeah,
But I'm not going to go. But I'll send an angel, who
yeah,
will go. And there's this whole kind of little, like you say about the car trip when you've had a big fight right before a 12-hour drive. It's like,
yeah.
okay, I'm going to go, but you know what? I'm not going to go. I'm going to come later. I'm going to take the bus.
Well,
I'll meet
maybe,
you
yeah,
there.
maybe I like that suggestion, and I want to kind of play with this a little bit more, but it's time for our break already. But everybody, hang on.
Yeah.
We're looking at Exodus chapter 33 here on Thy Strong Word. We'll be right back. Okay, I'm gonna turn down the studio for a minute here. So, yeah, kind of weird. All of a sudden, Restream is not wanting to play ball this morning here. So, I think it by default is gonna make a recording. Oh, I don't actually know that. Let me take a look. Okay, I think I'm just gonna try to make a recording then. Let's see.